everybody, welcome to the first in my knitting for beginners series. What I plan to do is go through the needles that you use, the accessories, how to read a pattern, casting on with 2 needles, and I'm going to be using Deramores wool. Well, wool from Deramores, and I'll be using the Studio Anti-Pilling. If I do it like that, can you see? Anti-Pilling. This is actually a double knit, and I'll show you how to read the ball band and go through all the abbreviations in patterns. Not all necessarily today, but it'll be develop over the series. But today what I'm going to concentrate on is your needles, accessories, how to cast on, and reading the ball band, because I think it all helps, especially for people who are beginners or people who have not knitted for quite a long time. I love knitting. I've been knitting for 54 years. 54 years I've been knitting. So for me it's my relaxing. It's something I like to do while I'm watching television, and when we travel in the car I enjoy knitting. Then while Rick's driving I just enjoy knitting and watching the world go by, and I do hope you'll enjoy the series. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments and I will answer them for you as best as I can. And I think sometimes it's nice, because I've been knitting for such a long time, it's nice even for me to go back over things and kind of because we learn something new every day. And I really hope you enjoy this series as much as I am going to enjoy doing it. I didn't mean it like that. You know what I meant. If you know me, you know my videos, you know what I'm like. So I'm going to turn you to overhead because it's easier for me to have the camera overhead so I can show you. Okay, so I just want to show you my needle case. Not all my needles are in here because I've got knitting on the go. I've got quite a few. So this this case in particular I've had for over 30 odd years, and it's got all the sizes ranging from the thinnest, which is 2mm, which in America I do believe is a 14, right the way down to a 7mm, which is a number 2. And I have, so they're the metal ones, and I've got different makes of metals. These are Aero, and I've got, so I kind of keep them all in this. But I've got this knitting bag, needle bag as well. I've had that for a long time, and I keep any excess needles in there. So I've got metal ones, but I've also got the bamboo needles, and these are really nice to knit with. I do use them on occasion, and I feel they stop my hands from if I've been knitting for a long time. With the metal I do usually transfer to these, and they're a lot easier on the hand, but that's everybody's preference. These are big Mahusif 15mm, and I couldn't tell you what size these are in American size, but they're a big needle as you can see. Look like well, so, and then I've got a couple of the bone ones, and this is a number 2, and I do believe it's a 7mm. And then I've got this one, which I got out of a magazine actually, and these are US 11, and they're 8mm. That's what it says on there. And then I've got, these are Some people like to knit in circles, so I've got this twin pins, and it's even got instructions in, and I've got quite a few different sizes of circular needles. Knitters usually are not, yes, you know, if you're making socks, these are ideal. A tip as well, you know, when you take it out of, let me just see this one, you see, you take it out of there and it's quite, but if you soak them in warm water, and these will then straighten then. So that's a tip to share with you. So all these excess accessories, you know, the pins, I always keep inside my bag there. So, and I've got 4-ended needle as well. They used to use them a long time ago, well, when I was a little girl, for knitting circular, you know, if you're going round, so you haven't got seams kind of thing. So anyway, so they're the needles that I have got. I'm going to be working with that. The next thing I want to show you, a few more accessories, is this is a needle gauge, and you know, if the top of your needle comes off and you don't know, you can just pop it through there and it'll give you the correct size. I've got some point protectors that they protect the point of your needle. So let me just get a needle. Let me get one out of here. So I've got this one, and all it does, you just pop it on the end and it protects, so it keeps the point of your needle nice and sharp. So I've got small and large, so that's them. This is a stitch holder, so when you've finished one piece, say you're knitting a cardigan and you've finished the side and you don't actually cast off, but you need to keep the stitches to pick up round the neck. This is, they do these in various sizes, and I'll show you my accessory. These are when you need markers. If you're doing a straight cardi, like this one, for example, is a raglan, and sometimes they ask you to use a marker, and you just put the marker at the end of each end before you start decreasing for the armhole. So they're stitch markers. This is a pattern, obviously. Lastly, I want to share with you my particular, this is my accessories. So yes, again, I've got another gauge in there. I always like to have a couple of crocheting hooks in here, and they're ideal if you drop a stitch, and then you can just loop them up and get them back up. I've got cable needles for Aran, when I do my Aran, some darning needles. These are a different style of markers. My tape measure, obviously. I have a pen. I have a couple of pairs of scissors. This is something that is used, I don't use it, but it's very handy to place when you're doing a pattern, you know, to follow the pattern, and as you do each row you just move it down and it highlights them. I'm going to bring your camera down just so you can see, just bear with me. So as you can see, as you move it down, as you do each row, you can move it down, which is really good. So yeah, so I've got the crocheting hooks, and as I was saying, the different sizes. I've got some kilt pins that I use as well. You know, when you've got Scotch kilts, I've had them for, oh gosh, don't think how long I've had them. And then these are all different style of, and all you do is just loop it right, unhook it. So that they're the accessories, and I've got a couple more of those pointer protectors for your knitting. So I'll just put these back in here because these, I have had them for years and I thought I needed some new ones, so I did treat myself. And also you've got a thread. I've got another pair of scissors, as I said. So they're the accessories that me personally have. I don't need that one because I've got that one in there, but that is just a spare. Okay, so while we're down here and that, I will just want to go through a pattern with you. What I suggest to every newbie is that on a pattern and even on a ball band, it tells you the tension. And I want to draw your attention to this. It reads here, 23 stitches and 33 rows form a 10 centimetre or a 4 inch measures 10 centimetres or 4 inches over the pattern. And then it goes on to say over the stocking stitch. So you need to check your extension, and I really do recommend before you start a project to do a little tension square, say 10 by 10, and if it's too loose, drop down a size. For example, say you're going to be using 3 3/4, if you're going to be using 3 1/4, which is a 10 for UK and a 3 for America, and 4mm, which is a size 8. If it's too loose, then you need to go down to a 3, which is a 9. No, sorry, it is 11. And then you need to go down to UK 9, which is 3.3 1/4 millimeter. If it's loose, very, very loose, then you need, very tight, I beg your pardon, then you need to go for a thicker needle. So you need to go up to a 7 and a 9 for your welt rib, however you call them. So that's just something. So I'm just going to go through the ball band. Right, this is Deramores, and it's called Studio, and it's an anti-pilling double knit. It is 100 grams, and it tells you the approximate weight. It also tells you that it's double knitting and it's 100% acrylic, and it's called Mist, and it gives you the lot number as well. And on the other side, it gives you the needle size that you can use, which is 4 to 5mm or US 6 to 8, or even a crochet hook, which is a 4mm, which is a US 6G. And then the stitches and the rows. So if you have 22 stitches and do 28 rows, you should have a tension square that measures 10 centimeters square or 4 inch square. And for the hoop size, it tells you the same. So 10, you need to do 18 chain, 19 rows, and again it should measure the square. It's machine washable. You don't iron it, you can a cool tumble dryer and everything, so it kind of gives you how to use it. When I use my wool, when I first start my wool, I always take my wool, find the end in the middle, and the reason I do this is to prevent my wool from rolling around the floor. And in a later video I will show you what I do if if it's a different style of wool other than a ball. I'll show you what I do. So my wool isn't trailing all over the floor, picking cat fluff up or dog hairs, or if you've got pets. So as I say, I take my wool out the middle, and it's a really nice, lightweight, really soft to knit with. Now when I do the welt, obviously you use smaller needles, so but because I'm casting on and showing you how to cast on with 2 needles, I've seen lots of videos where they use 1 needle and the thumb method. That is not the way I was taught, and I'd like to share with you how I was taught to knit, to start to cast on. I will go slow as I can. If you have any questions, just please leave a comment and I will answer them for you. What else was I going to say? Okay, so I am left-handed, but I was taught right-handed. I can knit left-handed, but I find it really, really uncomfortable because of the way I was taught. So I get my 2 needles, okay, and I get the end of the wool, and I always like to leave a little tail, which I kind of, at a later date, I'll show you what I do. So I get my 2 fingers, I wrap it round, and so it crosses over in the middle of the 2 fingers, and then oh gosh, it's awful when you just do it. And then what I do is, so I've crossed it, I spread my fingers open, and then I put the needle through the middle. So can you see through the middle? And I grab hold of the wool and I bring it forward and I just loop it. So I pull it. So I've got my first stitch. So I'll go through that again. Round 2 fingers, wrap it round the back, spread your fingers, open your fingers, put your needle through the middle and grab the wool as if you're going to knit it, and you've looped it, and then you just pull until you want it as tight as you want it, and that is your first stitch. I'll do it one more time for you, and I'll try and go as slow as I can. Okay, so 2 fingers, you 2 fingers, wrap the wool around, leave a little tail so you can weave that in, and I'll go through that at another time. Okay, cross it over so you've got a cross here. Open your fingers just a little bit, take one of your needles, put it through the, so you've got, it comes through, this wool comes round it and it comes through. Let go of the stitch, the wool, and then just pull both ends until you've got the size that you want. Do not cut your tail off, otherwise if you cut it too near, you've got the chance of your stitches unraveling. I always leave mine because I use that to weave in at the end when I've finished my project. So now I've got my first stitch on my needle. I then take my other stitch. Now I hold my needle. If I just, let me just show you what I do. So I hold my needle like that, and I have this one with my hand wrapped over it, and this one is kind of coming, resting between my thumb and my finger, and then I just put, so you're going through the first loop, so you've got a cross, so you take your right hand needle, you put it through the hole, the stitch on this your left needle, you cross them, then you bring your wool around. Sorry, it's a bit awkward. So right, okay, I always have my wool like that, so it kind of goes like that, okay, and that is providing my tension. Put your right needle through the stitch and form a cross. Put your, bring your wool round, and then lift it, bring it through so you've got another stitch, and you just loop that back on to your left hand needle. Okay, so that is the first stitch. I'll do it again and I'll show you how I do it. So wrapping my wool round my fingers, and then my right through the first stitch, form a cross, wool round needle through, making sure that you've got your two parts of the stitches on. Move your needle round the stitch that's on your right hand needle, go through the stitch, taking your right hand needle away, and you've got your second stitch. Okay, and how I think of it is, if I just I think of it like in, round, through and off. That's the way I was taught. So I'll do it one more time. So you go in, form a cross, round, holding the wool in your fingers, pull your needle through, still getting the wool, keeping the wool on your right hand needle, move your needle round, loop it through the stitch that's on your right hand needle, move your right hand needle away, and you've got your first stitch. Okay, now for the second stitch you do exactly the same. So you go in, through the stitches, form a cross. So with your right hand needle you go through the stitch, you form a cross, you bring your wool round, and I need bigger needles, these are too small. Yarn round needle through the stitch that you're just making, you bring your needle round to the back of the stitch that's on your right hand needle, you go through, and then you bring your right hand needle away, and you've got 3 stitches on your needle. Now I am just going to change to longer needles. I'm not a short needle, so I'm going to go with my metal ones. I'm going to take them off and we'll start again because they're just too small. And you'll find as you know you develop your style, I prefer the long needles because it's that. So let's go back to the beginning. To get my first stitch, as I said, wrap round. Hold on, I've done it wrong. So the tail end comes this side of your fingers, you wrap it round, you bring this round and you form a cross. Then you take your needle and you bring the wool through and you just pull, and you've got your first stitch. Okay, now I'm going to do, so you put your needle, your right needle through the stitch that's on your left needle. So you go in, round with your wool, holding your wool and your needle in your right hand, keeping this hand, your left hand, steady. You pull the needle through with the wool on the needle, and then you bring this left hand needle round the back of the stitch that's on the right hand needle, put it through the hole, the loop, and bring your right hand needle away. I'll do it again. So you go in, form a cross, round with your yarn, through is bringing your needle through the loop, and you've got a stitch on this right hand needle. Then you move your left hand needle to the back of the loop on the right hand needle, put your left hand needle through the stitch, you move your right hand needle away, and you've got 3 stitches. So I'll do that again. In, round, through, round the stitch, through the loop and off. In, form a cross, round with your yarn, through the loop on the left hand needle, bring in the yarn that you've put on the right hand needle through, bring your left hand needle round to the back of the loop on the right hand needle, put your needle through the loop, pull your right hand needle away, and there's your first 5 stitches. So I'm just going to do, let me see, what was the tension? Let me see. Right, okay, so it's 22 stitches. So I will just, I'll go slow, in, round, through and off. So you go in, round, through and off. Okay, and somehow that doesn't look right, so let me just take that off because I'm not happy with that. So we'll go in, in, round, through, round the needle, through the loop, off, in, round, through the needle, making sure you've got your stitch on the loop on this right hand needle, bring your needle on the left hand round, through and off, in, round, through and off. And that's how I do my stitches. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do 22 stitches. I'll go as really slow, in, round, through and off, in, round, through and off. And if you just say that, so how many stitches have we got on? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So I'll just speed this bit up. No, I won't speed it up at all. What I'll do is I'll just continue doing at my speed. Right, I'll go, so I've got 21 on now, so I'm going to go in, round, through, off. So there's my 22 stitches. So I want to do a knit row. So to do your knit row, put your right hand needle through the loop on your left hand needle, yarn round needle, through and take it off the left hand needle. So there's your first stitch. So it's in, round, through the needle, off, in, round, through and off, and you're leaving the stitches on your right hand needle. So I'll do that just one more time. In, form a cross, yarn round your needle, through the loop on the left hand and then off, and again in, round the yarn, round the needle, through the loop on the right hand needle, and then just bring it off your needle, in, round, through and off, in, round, through and off, in, round, through and off, in, round, through and off. And that is how you do your first knit row. Now I know there's a continental way of knitting, which is they use as speed knitting. I've never mastered it. I still can't do it. I don't know why, but I just can't. So I'm going to do a purl row this time. So and this is different. So instead of putting it through the front, what you do is you bring your yarn, your needle, and you bring into the front of the stitch. So you've got your right hand needle is in front of your left hand needle. You put your yarn round through and bring it off, and your yarn is always at the front of your work. So you bring your right hand needle in, you thread it through the stitch on the right hand, making sure that your needle is in front of you and in front of the stitch. You put your yarn round, you through and off. Again, in through the front, round the needle, holding your wool and your needles, and then bring it off the needle. So in through the front, round, through the needle, take the stitch off the left hand needle. So that's your purl. And again, in through the left, round, remember, through the stitch, and then take it off, and that gives you your stitch. So we go in, round, through and off. So in, round, through and off. In through the front, off through the back. In through the front, off through the back. So you've got your first two rows nearly completed. So in, round, through and off. In, round, through and off. And that are the first two rows of my tension square. So I'll just bring it up. So I hope this has helped you in some way, learning how to knit or cast on and knit with two needles. I just think it takes practice. But if you're willing to give it a go, you know, please let me know how you get on if you do follow the video. And next time we're going to go into reading a pattern, the abbreviations on the a pattern, showing you what the how to do the abbreviations, and we'll continue. I'm going to show you how to do, I call it a rib of a cardigan, some people call it a welt, and I'll show you how to do that. And thank you ever so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed today's video, and I will catch you all again next month for part 2. Bye bye for now.